All right, Chief, again, thank you so much for, taking the time out of your day to do this. With this assignment, they kind of wanted us to do a little bit of networking and reach out on LinkedIn and do all this stuff. But when I thought about it, I'm like, you might be one of the most influential people in this career field. And so, I didn't think there's anybody better to do this interview than you. So I know it wasn't part of the curriculum, but I didn't really care. I didn't think the need to reach out and do all this. So the premise of today's interview will be just on your leadership experience through the Air Force. So to start off, can you walk me through your career and highlight the leadership roles that shaped you the most?
Okay. So funny enough, I think one of the biggest things, so 2003 is when I came into the Air Force. I was the dorm chief during basic training. I think that sort of, shaped what the military was to me, because I came in wanting to get after it because 9/11, just happened. That's the reason I joined and all this stuff, but I really didn't understand the military yet either.
Yeah.
And I remember I was the third dorm chief. I initially started as an element leader, and because I was the tallest guy in my basic training flight and everything else, and they just automatically singled me out. I was the element leader. I watched the first guy go down within 3 hours. The second guy lasted maybe 2 days. Then all right, you're it. And I'm like, okay. Taking where they sort of, I wouldn't say failed, but things they did not know, and things they were being asked to do that they didn't understand. I really paid attention to that. So, and I think that's really what shaped my career as a leader in the military, is learning from other people's mistakes and learning from other people's failures to help me not fail as much, because we all fail, and if we're not failing, we're not trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that was probably the first realization that the military is a trial by fire. You're going to be given jobs and projects to do that you may not completely understand, but if you're not asking questions and you're not watching other people, you're going to ultimately probably fail bad. Whereas if you ask questions and watch what other people do, you're going to be more successful or not fail as bad.
Can I ask you, how old are you when you joined the Air Force?
So I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was older. I was in college playing basketball when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So I was older. I was a little more mature. You ask my family, probably not a little more mature, but I was a little more mature. I had a lot of life experiences coming in. I think that's another thing that helped, because I learned early, growing up. My grandfather was a retired command sergeant major in the Army.
Yeah.
He was in World War II, Korea and Vietnam. Spent 30 years in the Army, was part of the SOG when they first stood up. And he did all those things, and I grew up living on his farm and working on his farm, and then watching him. He developed my leadership, and then that transition to being a leader on the basketball team, in high school and then in college and all those things. So I had a foundation for what leadership, or at least what I thought leadership was. But I think the biggest part of it is I always stayed optimistic on how leadership should be done.
Yeah.
So I didn't say this is the only path that you can do it and this is the only way that it can be done. I tempered it with my environment and the people I was around and the things that I was doing. And I think that helped my growth through the years. I think the biggest challenge that I faced was being a young staff sergeant and having a senior airman who had been in longer than I had, but I still outranked him. I had him on age, of course, but and he had more experience, and knowing that there was a difference between doing the job and being an NCO. And I think that's where, like, that helped really, I think, thrust my leadership and my ability to work with people no matter their rank, and understand, like, they could be lower ranking than me because they've been in longer and just for whatever reason didn't promote, but they're the subject matter experts. And I got to lean on them, and I got to be able to be open to their recommendations, and based on their experience and based on their understanding better of the job than I, and then be able to take that and then fold it into, like, the decision that's being made, and trusting and relying on them.
Yeah, I mean, even for like myself, being a pretty young staff sergeant, I think one of the like most important things to have is like humility.
Yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
I feel like that's kind of what you're describing.
Mhm.
Is just, even though, yeah, you might outrank someone, but I always, like, in to truth, I always say like if you guys have a better idea or anything, like, please let me know, because I, might not have the best answer or might not have the best solution. So,
Right.
Please come forth and with open honesty, and if you're playing rocks, we'll go with it. And I have no pride to say that it's my way or the highway. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a finding, I think the other aspect of that is finding your blinders. Like, where are your blind spots? And then finding that person on the team that can be that person that looks out for your blind spots, because
Yeah.
your blind spots may not be somebody else's.
For
So
sure.
making sure you're listening and you're understanding what the person said. You have one mouth to speak, two ears to hear. So I listen twice,
Yeah.
speak once.
Absolutely.
So it's important to understand, and I think it also comes down to not only understand that individual, when you have blinders on, identifying that, understanding the other person doesn't, relying on them for that, but also now you found someone in the team and where their place is on the team. Like, they're going to be that person. for
Absolutely.
that. So
Going into our next main question, can you walk me through your career and highlight the leadership roles that shaped you the most? 'Cause I know you've you've done a lot.
So I think I think one of the biggest things, so I don't know if you're aware, but so I'm a retrainee.
Okay, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so I spent almost 4 years as an ammo troop.
Okay.
I originally came in to do a job like this, but I got hurt playing basketball, delayed so I was supposed to report to basic training February 2002. I didn't report until a year later because I tore my Achilles tendon playing basketball in
Yeah, it's
December.
not good. Yeah.
So it delayed me. And then it gave hurdles for medical because of trying to get past medical and stuff because of my recent injury. So I came in, didn't get the job I was wanting. I didn't get TAC P coming in the door because of medical. But
Is that what you wanted?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so the recruiter's like, well, they'll come brief you at basic training, and if you pass the pass test there, you'll get put in the pipeline, and then you'll have that whole time to pass the medical. Don't worry about it. Don't worry
You're
about
like,
it, right?
sure.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, all
you're a
right,
trustworthy
cool.
guy.
So I get the basic, and the only briefing I get is SEER, and I was like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. And so I went on. I did ammo for 4 years,
Mhm.
and I retrained.
Did you retrain as a senior airman?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So, but while I was in ammo, I deployed in a non-ammo position to Iraq, and I got thrusted pretty quickly. We were training Iraqi military how to do air crew stuff, and I got put into a position where I was training these Iraqi soldiers to do ammo accountability, inspection of the ammunition and explosives and all this other stuff, and it was just me. I was the only person, and I think not only the challenge of being the only ammo, there's only like 3 of us senior airmen there, but all the other senior airmen had a tech to rely on, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I think what helped was, or it had me grow up a lot quicker as an airman, because not only was I dealing with that and trying to explain the rules and regulations of safety and explosive safety to non-ammo personnel in the Air Force, but also trying to at the same time teach it to a foreign national who I'm using an interpreter to talk to, like, really helped me develop my communication and how I talk. So I think that was a huge step to help me step in the right direction as a leader, was how I communicate to people. And then fast forward, now I'm a TAC P in my first deployment, and I'm a ROMAD, and I'm working with my JTAC, and I'm working with him, and it was almost like he never treated me like the other ROMADs.
Yeah.
And he always treated me a little bit different, and I think it is, one, because of the way I communicated with him. Like, I showed not only that I loved the job, and as a ROMAD, I dug in and I learned everything that I could learn as fast as I could learn it. And that was an aspect of he seen that, like, I could do the things that the other ROMADs couldn't do, and he was giving me more and more and more responsibility, more leash to do things. And we'd go out on missions, and I'm doing a lot of the things that he normally did, but he trusted me because I earned the trust, but I was also able to communicate based on my previous experience, like that aspect of the job. So I began to learn, like, I can lead as an individual, as in an Air Force as an Air Force professional, but I can also follow, as I may not be the expert at the time. So, and I knew how to, one, communicate that. I communicate as a professional, but also to follow as a professional and take those orders as needed, especially when you're the same rank or maybe even outranked that other person. And then that followed me to, it was 2011, and I think it was the key turning point in my leadership and understanding how important, well, the first thing you said was humility, but the second part of that is the credibility. And as a JTAC, I remember being out on a mission. I was a young staff sergeant. We did a dismount operations. We set up along the wall, vehicles pulled away, they set up a vehicle patrol base, and while we're on the wall of this compound, guy threw a grenade over the wall and fragged the platoon sergeant. And he immediately went down. I remember looking around to everybody around us, and they were just like frozen. It was like, this platoon sergeant, Roscoe, was a good dude, but he was the thing that made that machine run in that platoon. And when he went down, it was like nobody knew what to do next. And I noticed that, and I'm like, if somebody doesn't orchestrate something, nothing's going to happen.
Things are just gonna get worse.
Yeah. So I immediately grabbed the medic. We went over and pulled Roscoe over. He started providing medical attention to him. I'm looking like nobody's, like our 6 is completely exposed. So
Yeah.
I'm grabbing the heavy weapons team, getting them over there. At the same time, I'm up on Jarn, getting aircraft overhead, asking the platoon leader, you know, like medevacs, like have we passed that up yet? No, it hasn't. So I'm getting all the information from the medic, trying to get the morgue team set up to get a loom because it's dark as all get out. Trying to get a loom up, and I'm doing all these things, and it's just like it wasn't like I'm trying to think in my head, okay, what do I do next? It was just like, see something, attack it, fix it. And I get sort of a little thing I always said from that time on is, don't let the problem work you, you work the problem. And I would just work one problem. I would see multiple problems. I would put a plan into place, and then I'd start working them.
Absolutely. Just one at a time.
Yep, one at a time. And not try to overload myself.
Yeah.
But like the mortar team, and it's perfect because I'm still even friends with the FO today.
Yeah.
We talk all the time. He actually lives down San Antonio. I'm going to see him at the end of the month. I knew the mortar team, like, we need to get them up. We need to get our loom. That's a problem. It isn't working. I found him and I said, hey, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
He's solving my problem now. I can move on to the next problem.
Absolutely.
And that's that leader, like, I'm taking that leadership now to the next level of where I see a problem and don't think it's all on me to fix it.
For sure. Yeah, I was just about to bring up that. I think that's a really good example of like really quick delegation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
all
they needed was somebody to just tell them, like, get a loom up or, you know, call the medevac. And then they know, you know, what their job and their specialty is, like, I got it from here.
Right.
You know,
and that really come down to that it's like, see a problem, know who your expert is who can solve it, and have them attack it.
Yeah.
And then go on to the next thing. And so we were able to get out that night. Roscoe was able to get back to care. We got him the care he needed. He was back with the platoon within a week.
Awesome. Yeah.
But it was, I think from that point on, and I think what was the nail that drove the point home for me was when we finally got Roscoe off the X and the vehicles come back. The team leader or the platoon leader come up to me and he's like, hey, Sergeant Staggs, you're going to be TC of Roscoe's truck. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking TC of Roscoe's truck, like, that's platoon sergeant.
Yeah.
And he goes, we're going to continue on mission. You're going to be my platoon sergeant. So now I'm thinking, like, what's this Air Force E5 going to do for this platoon? But what he's seen that I didn't see was how the guys were reacting, how I was solving the problems. Now they started looking at me like they looked at Roscoe.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter at that point in rank. It just mattered on who was the one who could stay calm under the pressure, had the experience to get things done, and still understood, even though I was Air Force, I still understood the battlefield geography.
Absolutely.
And I could get it done.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really sparked and built into my confidence, but it also showed that platoon my credibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's why credibility is big. And credibility is not knowing everything, but just like I did with that mortar team, is I didn't know the answer, but I knew who did it.
Absolutely.
And I put them after it. And that's credibility, is you just may not know everything, but you know at least someone to go talk to get that answer.
Absolutely.
And then I think the next step was my 2012 deployment was big because it was a very much a trial on my leadership. So ODA 1411, we had Stan House with the OGA, and then we had I can't remember the other guy's name, Kuzmich and Geiger and McGee with the Black Lions, and there was one other guy, and I won't mention his name, but he had a SIPCAS incident.
Okay.
Where he dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on a friendly OP. And he immediately went home, of course. But that relationship with the Black Lions were very,
Fragile.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of, pointing fingers at each other and stuff like that. And they asked me to roll in and be the Balo, and take over, rebuild that relationship, rebuild that. And I think going in there, I think all the things that I learned up to that point was helping me. It's my ability to communicate, my ability to be humble and understand that that I may not be the best JTAC in that group, but at least I know enough and I know who to pick to do what when, that we can get the job done and we can rebuild this relationship. And then my credibility, like I was spot on with my JPub, with my JFire, with everything else. Like I did all the studying I needed to do to be credible. And then the last thing is, and what I tried to approach the situation is, the way I look at it is, when things happen, there's three sides to every story: their side, and the truth. Sometimes it's a little bit of both that gets you to truth. Sometimes it's one side is truth, but there's still three sides.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how many times you go over the story with each party, you're always going to get their side. You're never going to get the truth.
Yeah.
So the way I went into it was, I am just going to go in and say, that has happened back there. I am not that person. We have a mission and a job to do. We're going to do this job and this mission. And I'm going to show you why we are the guys that can help you get this done.
Yeah.
And the first person that I ran into was their XO, Major Robinson. And he was definitely the go-to guy within that battalion, even though he was the XO. And I quickly made friends with him, just because I knew how influential he was inside that talk. I knew by making friends with him, I could start opening doors of lines of communication with other people, because everybody inside that talk respected him enough, and he was such a hard hitter, and come from the Ranger Battalion back to the battalion, like he was the guy, everybody. So made friends with him, started showing him what I could do, and then built up we did this huge mission to close down some cops, and we built everything up, and I laid out the JTAC plan, and the battalion commander was totally against my JTAC plan, just totally against it. And I fought back because I wanted my guys to be in the right place. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my call. I had to suck it up, do what he needed to do, or what he wanted me to do, after getting word back from the brigade that they were going to approve his plan. So I did it, and didn't bring it up anymore, and I did everything that my job required me to do. What it ended up happening is, the place where I wanted to put a JTAC, where he took the JTAC out and put it somewhere else, was actually the place that got hit the hardest.
Really?
And he needed a JTAC there.
Yeah.
So it was like, I didn't have to rub it in.
For sure.
I just let the mission tell the story.
Yeah.
And I worked my butt off to make sure with the QRF, that we had a JTAC going out with them, and got to where they needed to be, and changed the dynamics of that battle. So it was sort of a silent, like, pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
I was actually right,
Yeah.
and stuff. And the colonel, I remember, as we were rotating out, I remember the colonel coming up to me, and he's like, learned a valuable lesson. Listen to my JTACs.
Yeah. I was just about to ask if there was like a conversation with
Yeah.
him afterwards.
And I never said anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even remember what I responded with, but I was just, like a Roger that, sir, or something like that. But nothing, didn't need to rub his nose in it, didn't need to do anything. Luckily, we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody was seriously injured. But I think that confidence I came in with, the ability to communicate, and then right off the bat, sparking, talking about networks, being able to surveil the landscape, understand who's the most influential person in the room, and start making ties with them and becoming friends with them, sort of opens that up. And then when you have the opportunity to do your job, do it so well. And the one aspect of that was I was the first person to employ with Thebe.
Okay.
In country, and it was a laser guided bomb, and so that was huge, because they had been trying for the last year to be able to employ with these guys, and it just kept failing. Took me an hour.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, but we got we got the bombs off the rails, and we smoked the bad guys, but
everything worked out.
Everything worked out. I think that helped build, and then after that, I got back in 13, 14. I moved on to JBLM. While I was up there, I went to weapons school. I think that was another key aspect is I was so ingrained in the way the Army did things, the way SOF did things, that I just hand waved the way the Air Force did things, because I knew, but I didn't know everything, and I just felt like I knew everything because that's all that I ever was taught.
Yeah.
Then I get to weapons school, and it's like those blinders immediately disappeared, and I seen things through a new lens. I started solving tactical problems completely different. I started solving them by sort of understanding the more details of the problem instead of just the problem itself.
Yep.
And that helped me because it was very overwhelming. It can be very frustrating, especially on the rides when you're coming back from the range and you see yourself. You're like, man, I really blew that one out of the water. You know, I did really well.
Yeah,
and then you said the debrief, you're like, what?
You're like,
I don't even remember that.
Why'd you bring that up?
So it's very humbling.
Yeah.
But then you start to see how much you improve after you get broken down.
Yeah.
And then all the friendships you're building there with not only other JTACs, combat controllers or TACPs, but also the air crew. And knowing that the day when we graduated, we walked out there, like, I can call any of those bros anytime I have a question or a need, and I know they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And that comes true in 2016. I was deployed with some organizations downrange in 16, 17, and I got to plan a lot of the time sensitive raids and do a lot of the mission prep. And I seen a disconnect in like what we say we do and what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's because now I had this like larger aperture of what the Air Force does.
Yeah.
And I already had the large aperture of what the Army and SOF does. And now combining the two, it's like, okay, we say one thing, but we do something completely different. And although there's a lot of things I was like, yep, let's do this, let's get after it. There's a few things I was like, I spoke up. Like, I was just like, I can't just sit back. If I'm going to be a good steward of, assets and time and all these things, I need to at least speak up. And the biggest thing was the Moab.
Yeah.
I get a call. Jeff Leahy, I don't know if you ever met Jeff, but Jeff he's a character. But he was over at an organization. He called me, and he's like, hey, Nasty, when'd you get in? And I was like, I've been here for about 2 days now. He goes, oh, cool. He's like, got this major I need you to come talk to. I've been telling him all about you. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'll come over. So he's we're on Bagram, but we're in 2 different camps.
Yep.
So I go over to his camp. Camp Vance, and I roll in, see Leahy, and then he's like, "Oh, this is the major I was talking about." And the major comes up and doesn't even introduce himself. He's just like, "Hey, what do you think about the Moab?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, pretty cool.
I was like, "It's a big ball, man."
Yeah.
And then he starts showing me the target and all these things that he wants to do with it. I'm like, first of all, like, we don't have very many of these in inventory.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it can get the job done, but I bet I can find a different weapon that we already have in country that can probably do the same thing you're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and did my research, reached out to a couple air crew guys that I knew that I went to weapons school with, some weapon system officers and things like that. They pointed me in the direction of the test center at Eggland. I reached out to them. They gave me some schematics. They gave me some suitable subs that would do the same thing, and then I presented that to them. So I sort of scratched it for that target set, and then about a month later it comes back up again.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I put out this forest fire, and here it is
Yeah.
again. But I kept pushing back to the point where Colonel Gary was the FSO for the whole task force, and I come walking in one day, and he sees me, calls me over. I go over and he says, "Hey, this Colonel Evans wants to see you," and he's task force commander. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, first of all, why is Colonel Evans
Yeah,
know who I am?
everything good.
And, why does he want to see me?
Yeah.
So when I went in there, Colonel Evans like, "Hey," he's like, "Heard you're against the Moab." I was like, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Why?" So I told him, I was like, "Look, proportionality. There's a lot of things we're doing that are not proportional to the target sets that we have.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot better options with a lot less munitions than what we're using." I was like, and I think the Moab's extreme.
Yeah.
For whatever we're going to use it for. He's like, "Good. You're going to be part of the team that plans using the Moab. I need someone who is going to think about the problems with it and just wanting to use it." So I got part of that team. I led the team throughout the whole concept. We have all kinds of tactical problems throughout planning, whether it was getting it from the United States to country, or getting, countries we're passing through, or net explosive weight on Bagram, whatever, all these problems. But that in turn helped me to speak and communicate to a lot higher ranking individual, because I was a tech sergeant.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to like colonels and generals and CENTCOM commander, and so it taught me an important thing, and I try to teach my wife this because she is really bad at communicating. Sometimes is there's a start and an end to a conversation.
Yep.
Usually your point falls right in the middle. The problem is a lot of people start and end are so far away from the point that by the time you get to the point, you've forgot what the person who's listening forgot what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And then by the end, they forgot the point that you made, right? So trying to shorten that, and we have a name for it. It's called the elevator speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, the old TV show, Just the Facts, Man.
Yeah.
Like that is where I got to what, like, generals only have a certain amount of time
For sure.
to talk to them. So you got to get them the information that they need. But what I seen is, like, leading a team and being a team sergeant, like, they appreciate that too, because their time is just as much as valuable as that general.
Yeah.
It's just that general, if you're going to be long-winded, he's just going to walk out.
For sure. You're a new guy.
Your troop isn't going to walk out.
No.
You're right. So, but you need to be just as much worried about their time as you would be a general officer's time.
Absolutely.
So that elevator speech is where I like to keep things with guys. Now, if they want me to tell a story or elaborate on something, of course, I will do that. But being able to give them just the facts, and then if they ask for the why, then expound on it, I think gives back to them the time that I'm showing them how valuable their time is. So, and then after that, like I 17, I learned a lot, and then I went at my last deployment. I was a senior, and I think as a senior, still doing JTAC stuff, I think what I learned was sometimes people look at you with your rank that you have all the answers when you don't. And I think that's where as you move up into leadership, this is where it gets tricky, is you, when you're a senior chief, you don't want to necessarily, and this is your individual's perception, want to say, I don't know. But I think it's important, and I learned this with the guys at RLZ, was to tell them, I don't know. Because if you start spouting off stuff, even if you're right or wrong, you're gonna be like, man, I'm never gonna remember all this stuff. Like, how am I ever gonna get there? Like, you stifle their growth because you're like, this guy knows everything. I'll never be him. And although you want to set them up for success and also show them like, hey, I'm a capable, competent person to follow, being honest with them shows that more than just spouting off an answer, especially if it's wrong. Like, I mean, nobody wants to follow somebody who's constantly wrong. So it was important. It was finally important to me to be able to tell the dudes, hey, I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to find somebody and we'll talk to them. And then the biggest thing was, for me, it was not going and finding the answer and bringing the answer back to them, but finding the person who had the answer. And then all of us get the answer from that person, and then connecting them. Take myself out of the equation. I don't need to be that guy. You have the dude to go to. Major Rutherford, I think he was a lieutenant colonel. No, he was a lieutenant colonel now. He was the guy that I reached out to on the question because he was actually the F-16 patch in Afghanistan 16-17 when I was there with that organization. And then in 21, when I was a senior downrange, he was the weapons officer for USAFE as a lieutenant colonel. And we had a question, Strike Eagle question about SUAS and stuff like that. So yeah, I reached us all out to him. He had the answers. He gave us the information, and then I was like, dude, you guys are cleared to go direct to Major or Colonel Rutherford at the time to get whatever information you need. So, and equipping them with the power now that they had a direct source instead of me playing middleman. Because a lot of people have different terminology of micromanaging, and to me, that's one way of, you might not necessarily be micromanaging, but you start to fall in that pitfall of micromanaging. And I don't like that at all. I've heard other people use, like, I'm not a micromanager, but I like to be micro-informed. I'm like, you're just a passive micromanager.
Exactly, it's
like,
worse.
And then the other thing that I learned along the way is by staying in JTAC as long as I did, staying relevant to the mission actually enables and increases the guy's ability to become better. So the worst leader, one of the worst leaders I've ever seen, was an individual who we're out on the hill control. He was my chief at the time. I did this new thing. It met all the procedures of the joint pub, but I wanted to try it because it's something I'd read in there, and it was like nobody had been using it. I'm like, but the JPub says we can do this. Why did nobody use it? So the scenario came to a place where I could actually do that. So I did it, and it went off successfully, and it was good. And at the end, when my scenario was done and we were wrapping up, putting all the equipment back, we were at Smoky Hill on Soldier's Cap. I looked at him and I was like, hey Chief, I was like, what do you think about that? And he goes, I don't know. He's like, I haven't been at JTAC in years. I don't know what you guys were doing. I'm like, that blew my mind. As a staff sergeant, a chief had no idea. My TAC-B chief had no idea what I was doing as a JTAC. Like, how are you supposed to lead me if you're not relevant? And that stuck with me, and I was like, okay, if I ever become a senior, if I ever become a chief, I will stay as relevant to the mission, and I will work my butt off and work extra to do that, to provide positive, reinforcing, and critical feedback to make the guys better. One, and then two, if they are doing something and they're saying, hey chief, we're using this new thing, that is doing this, we need to get this. I don't have to go and say, hey, can you build me a PowerPoint to help me understand how you're using this? Like, I can be like, hey, when is the next time you're going out to use it? This time, okay, I will put you in my schedule. I will get out there. I want to see it because I understand the mission. I know how to be a JTAC. I'm still JTACing. Let me get out there, watch you. Now let me control and use it and see, and now I can go advocate for you. And then that way it keeps you guys from spending a week in the office trying to make a PowerPoint to educate my dumb ass because I didn't do my due diligence to stay relevant. And I think 23 years. I think that is probably, as a leader, one of the most important things is being relevant.
Absolutely.
To what's going on.
Do you know Colonel Shibs?
Yeah.
Yeah, commander at the 2nd ASOS.
Second, yeah.
Yeah, so he was the det commander in Italy for 2 years, and we did feedbacks during a point in time when we were all together, and that was like the one thing I told him. I'm like, I've never seen a lieutenant colonel do as much as you do in regards of like staying relevant and still going out on missions with us, doing CAS, all the above. I'm like, I'm the same way. I've seen chiefs or seniors be like, I've been controlled in 6 years, and I'm like, is that a thing? You know,
Right,
so I just remember seeing him and telling him, I'm like, yeah, you lead by example, you do the job, and I think you fall, directly in that category as well. But so you see it, I see it.
Yeah,
it's really important.
And that's, and don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of stuff that I have to do as a chief that a lot of you guys don't know about or get to see. I put this on one of my. So we have to, as a senior and a chief, as a master sergeant and a senior, we fill out these. They're for the enlisted developmental boards, so these worksheets, and we fill them out. And I put in there as a senior. I asked the question about the job and relevancy and stuff like that. And I put in there as a senior, I was like, look, I will stay nose to the grindstone and be doing the job and doing everything else that I'm supposed to be doing because I don't get paid more money to do a different job. I get paid more money to do more work. And as a leader, I think this is another thing a lot of guys fall is they don't understand prioritization as well as they think they do because they try to prioritize time. And if you prioritize time, you can do it for a while, but you start to run out of time because there's only 24 hours in a day. What you have to learn how to do is prioritize tasks. Because you may get a task that says this needs to be done tomorrow. This needs to be done tomorrow. But if you really look at the task and you open it up, it's like, okay, well, MatchCom needs this by this date, but they're not going to get an answer for 6 months. Wing just wants to look at it for just to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Group just wants to consolidate everything from the squadron and send it up. Hey, at the squadron, I'm gonna be like, hey group, I need an extension. And now I push that down the road a little bit because it's not as important as they think it is.
Absolutely.
And the other aspect of it is, looking at the tasks, like I look, okay, this is super important. It's got to get done. I got to get this data somewhere, but it's only going to take me 10, 15 minutes to do it. But if I do it in the middle of the day, it's going to take me probably 2 hours because I'm going to start it, I'm going to get interrupted.
Yep.
I'm going to start it again, get
Distracted,
interrupted,
yeah.
right? So I'm just going to come in earlier, I'm going to stay late and get it done.
Yep.
And now I've blocked off a certain amount of time where I'm actually going to do this, and it's only going to take me 15 minutes. I'm going to get done. Usually for me, it's early in the morning.
Yeah.
Get it done, get it knocked out, and send it on its way. So, and I think that's where a lot of leaders, especially starting at the master sergeant level, they start to get lost in, because they get this a lot of more admin responsibilities that they're not used to, and they don't know how to task prioritize, and they don't have a schedule to follow with it. Like I have a schedule, I have 2 things on my wall over here: static closeout dates, and then the promotion and PME schedules and stuff. And that helps me with awards and all these things prioritize my calendar based on events as they get closer. So as I get closer to static closeout dates and EFDPs, I start blocking off those weeks as admin weeks. So all my tasks are going to be admin weeks. But then what I start seeing is white space where I don't have anything to do, and now I can do 2 things. I can start planning to go out into field and do some field stuff with the guys to control some CAS. Like next week I'm going out to do the SUWAS thing with the guys out of your troop.
Yeah.
And take leave. Spend time with my family.
Yeah.
You know, so but that's took me a long time to learn it.
For sure.
I didn't just learn it right off the bat. I've had some good mentors like CZ mentor me and stuff like that. So I learned that it's prioritizing the tasks given, and like there is nothing in the military that is non-operational that needs to be solved in the next 24 hours. Because there is some kind of bureaucracy or politics in the way that's going to delay the actual solution.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I have a buddy of mine, Sergeant Lax. He's in Italy, and he's kind of like a workaholic, and so you'd always see him, staying at work till, 6, 7, 8. And I always tell him, like, Justin, you can wait till tomorrow. And I just tell him that like every day. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it's like your point is, it's like it may seem important, but is it really? You know what I mean? Like go home, spend time with your wife and hang out.
I have to tell my wife that all the
Yeah.
time. Being in security forces, they are constantly, everything is a forest fire.
Yeah.
When it's barely a dumpster fire. Right?
Yeah. It's all good.
And it stems from their leadership, right? Because they ping on they ping on what that Air Base Wing Commander says and wants, and that being the base security, it's like they think it has to be solved overnight, or they have now created a vulnerability for the whole base. I'm like, how long has this problem been there? 2 years? Okay, I think 24 more hours, you'll be good. Like,
That's funny.
So, but I think the culminating of each of those events have led up to be where I am as a leader now.
Mm-hmm.
I think my experiences differ from a lot of people, because I told the senior NCOs this last week at our offsite was there's multitude routes to get to chief.
Mm-hmm.
Not one way is the right way to get there. And it's the same way with being a leader. There is not one way to become a good leader. It's just understanding your leadership style, understand the things that influence your leadership, and then taking that and building on it and understanding where your blinders are so you can pull people in to have a team to help you be a leader. Because without a team, you're not a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding each person's role within that team and leveraging them and allowing them to do the work without you lording over them, and encouraging them to fail is to me what makes leaders great.
Absolutely.
Is that freedom?
Yeah. I know you've answered a lot of my questions, so I appreciate you doing that. 'Cause the next one I had was basically talking about like your leadership
philosophy, but the things I wrote down were, humble, credible, knowing your blind spots and your team's blind spots, be willing to fail, and networking. Just as kind of like
I think I would add 2 more in there.
yeah.
Approachability.
Humble, credible, approachable.
Yeah.
See what you
Yeah.
did
See what I did
there?
there?
Yeah.
So
I was waiting
approachability.
for it.
Approachability is
Yeah.
important. And it some people it's easier than others. So I feel I'm a very approachable person.
Okay.
Now, if you initially see me,
Mm.
like my stature, my demeanor might not come off approachable.
Yeah.
So I try to lighten the mood everywhere I go
For sure.
to create that approachability.
Mhm.
So in the approachable part is just like when you asked me to do this interview. Like
Yep.
I'm like, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
talk, because it not only helps you with your paper and your growth in the military, but it also helps me. Helps me reflect on where I was and where I'm at,
Yeah.
and how I can get better. Because I know there's always room for growth.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the approachability part that a lot of people don't understand, is having somebody come up and talk to you about things that may be a little humbling and a little maybe sometimes embarrassing.
Yeah.
Builds character, and that character translates into your leadership.
Mhm.
And that's where I think that emotional intelligence and all that stuff starts kicking in. So approachability is super important. The other side, so it sort of contrasts with humility, is aggressive.
Yeah.
I think every leader needs to have an aggressive side, and what I mean by that is aggressive to stand on what is right. Don't be the person who backs down when you know you're right. I've had several times as a chief where I had to stand up to other chiefs or other higher ranking individuals because they were wrong. They were not only wrong, they were dead wrong.
Mhm.
And nobody in the room was willing to speak up. I'm like, I'll raise my hand,
Yeah,
I'll
I
speak
got
up,
it.
I don't care, I
Yeah.
got this. Because as a leader, if you're not aggressive to stand on the tough issues, talk about the tough things, to when somebody gives bad information to correct them, we're failing the people we lead. And to me, that is like, if I was to get a gray card on my leadership, failing the people I lead is like, I fail as a leader.
Yeah.
Period. Dot. Being able to stand up and make those. Now, I will say this, like, I'm the kind of person, like, if there's going to be, if I'm going to get pushback, like, I like to come armed with information. And one instance we had about a year ago, I was trying to get some stuff and kept getting pushback because bad information was put out by someone in charge. And I'm in this virtual meeting, and nobody is speaking up saying, "Hey, you're wrong." But I knew the next week I was going to see all the chiefs, and we were going to sit down and discuss things. So after a meeting, I went ahead and pushed up the purchase request, even though they said we're not going to. I went ahead and pushed it up, and I built a MFR with stating all the reasons why this needs to be purchased. Then I brought that MFR with me because it provided all my source data.
Yeah.
Provided all the things that MatchCom was telling us to do and all these things. And I got the no before I even left. They're like, nope, not mine. So we go and we're all together and we're sitting down, and of course I knew the one chief would bring it up, and he brought it up. The way he did it though, he did it in a way that was misleading and trying to lead to get the answer he wanted, which really, if anything, is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, is when somebody manipulates the information to then lead a question to get the answer they want.
Yeah.
Instead of just ask the question and see what the real answer is.
Mhm.
And when he got done, I was just like, stop.
Yeah.
I completely went off and I just cited source after source and how Matchcom said you will do this and blah 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 and went down and by the end of the meeting I got the thing that we wanted to purchased, but it took me being aggressive enough that I knew that what they were thinking or what they were doing was not right, and they were it wasn't that they were doing it intentional. They misunderstood the information that was given, and they were given bad data from even higher.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I showed them the source data, and I was like, I'm going to fall on this sword if I have to for the guys, because this is wrong. So that's the aggressiveness that I talk about is making decisions in the tough times, standing on what's right, and taking care of the dudes when you're getting pushback. That's being aggressive.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to the foundation. You learn this in basic training. It's standards and discipline, right? So you're taught, and a lot of people, to me, and this is my perspective, and this is only Chief Staggs' perspective, is standards and discipline. One's a foundation and one is what's built around the foundation. Standards is the foundation. Discipline is built around it to make sure standards stay the foundation. And I think a lot of people get it wrong when I look at it, is because they think discipline is the foundation.
Yeah.
And the standards are built on top of it. The way I look at it is, when we get the basic training, we're taught a lot of standards. At the same time, we're taught discipline on how to follow standards. But the standards are the first thing they teach you, because once you leave basic training, now you learn your technical skills.
Yeah.
And you're continually learning that discipline. It's trying to stay within that discipline window to follow the standards. And I think the important part is how well disciplined you are allows you more freedom to operate in the gray areas of standards, because we just keep layering standards on standards on standards, because we have all the standards of all Air Force standards you gotta follow. But then we have joint pubs, we have J-fires, and if you look at other career fields, they got TOs and they got TOs, and they got all these other things, right? You look at my wife's career field, like some of the stuff they have, DODIs and all this, I'm just like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but what it does is they're written in, and I've been to a couple of writing conferences where we rewrote the JPub, and I was one of the authors on the AFTP 3-3.JTAC,
Okay.
and the last part of that rewrite is the JAG review, and it is to make sure, and they're in there to say, well, if you are saying this, but you really just want to give this as a framework of how you can do it, but there's other ways, legally you should use this word.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like the wills, like
You
will do this, where the shoulds is like, everything goes good.
Should work out.
Right? So those are the gray areas, but the discipline that you've learned throughout your military career allows you to operate in that gray area. And then once that gray area is gone, you are disciplined enough to get back within standards.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of people, in the last few years, we have lost a lot of that discipline, and now nobody knows how to get back within standards because we have lost that discipline.
Yeah, and you talked about this, I think the last time you controlled in the sim with myself and Captain Hauser.
Yeah.
Just talking about going like the non-conventional way of like even doing a 9-line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're saying your discipline to the standards allows you to go into that gray area, but then once you deem it that you need to go back, you just flip that switch and go right there. So
Exactly.
like there's a tactical level to it as well as I guess administrative and all
absolutely.
aspects of the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a understanding your environment, understanding your situation, and what is going on around you that is going to drive you to go outside the norm. I can do it this way and you're taking some of those standards with you.
Yep.
So like for us controlling, we're taking it's got to be safe and effective. I got to know where friendlies are.
Yep.
I got to make sure all these restrictions are going to keep friendly safe, but also still meet the ground commander's intent with the target.
Yep.
I'm taking those standards with me. I'm just doing it
In a different
different
way,
than
yeah.
the way the standard says, because I need to create I need to expedite
Yes,
this.
absolutely.
And then once that's done,
Yeah.
now I can come back over.
Absolutely.
And it's a recheck too. It's
Mhm.
like a recheck everything I did, okay? And then the other thing a lot of guys don't realize, and I think they miss out on, is this is an opportunity then to reflect on this. Does the JPUB need to be updated?
Mhm.
Does the AFTTPs need to be updated? Like now you can start asking those questions after you took a step back,
Yeah.
thought about it, because there may be things, and we, the AFTTP, there was a lot of things we changed based on stuff that we were doing that was considered at that time a JCAS error,
Yeah.
because it wasn't within the standards. But it's like, well, why are these standards? Well, these standards were here because we didn't have this equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have this equipment,
Yeah.
so is this now standard
Kind of
obsolete?
arbitrary, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it is, so let's get rid of it and let's add this new thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll finish up with 2 more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
We'll get out of here. What advice would you give someone like me who wants to grow into a senior leadership role?
First thing is, and I think this is one of the biggest things that have helped me stay optimistic. I think a lot of people either lose their optimism or they just don't have it. It's not a great in them, and it can hinder your growth because you're not you don't necessarily you only see the negatives. You
Yeah.
can't find the positives. I think a perfect example is when interacting with people, say you had this troop that has been nothing but a problem for you, constantly in trouble, constantly causing problems, and it's so easy, and you can go really quick to just being like a negative with
Yeah.
this individual. But the first thing I always ask when I see something like that, and I think this is the optimistic side of me, and like working on my emotional intelligence, is there something else going on that I just don't know about?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start asking those invasive questions, and
Yeah.
those prodding questions and stuff like that. And I keep an open mind, like I'm not just gonna ask it to try to find more stuff.
Yeah.
I'm asking it because I truly care about the individual, the human,
Mhm.
and not the airman.
Absolutely.
So being optimistic, because understanding that the people you're leading are looking to you and following you, and what you're saying is influencing them. So to influencing them in a positive way will provide you positive results. And I tell my kids this all the time: positive thoughts, positive results. And what I mean when I tell them that, what I mean by that is, I don't mean like, if you think like, oh, I'm gonna get $100, I'm gonna get $100. What I mean by that is, like, I'm gonna go into a situation, and whether it's something unknown, or maybe it's super intimidating, or like very, like it has me overwhelmed, I'm gonna go in as like, I'm going to do everything that I know how to do, and I'm gonna do it to my very best ability, and whatever the results are that.
Mm-hmm.
Because fail or succeed, I'm going to learn.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the optimistic side of leadership, is doing that, because now you start breeding allowing your people you're leading to have the courage to fail.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that is, don't be afraid to fail in front of them either.
Mhm.
A lot of people's like, I don't wanna see me fail. It's like, no, I
So,
wanna see them
yeah.
fail. Controlled environment though.
Mhm.
I think that's the other thing, because if you don't do it in a controlled environment, you start to lose your credibility.
Yeah.
So it has to be in a controlled environment. So you can't fail as a leader in leading them. You can't fail administratively, because that's taking care of them.
Yeah.
But what you can fail in is like, hey guys, I'm gonna go into sim and control. I'm gonna try this new stuff that I've been reading in the JPub. Come watch me,
Yep.
and then let me know if we after we debrief, let me know what you think. Type deal, and go in there, or you know, you go into sim like, hey, I want to run the toughest sim we got, and I want you to give it all to me, win or lose, I want it all.
Yeah.
Like, show them that you're not afraid to take the chance.
Yep.
Right. And then I think the second thing is being a leader is putting the shoes of the people you lead on your own feet. You've been there, but you haven't been there as them.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is look when you're leading those people, like take 13th ASOS, right? I come to 13th ASOS from a very different organization, and you know, being at that higher level, it was a lot of strategic and operational stuff going on, right? I could have came here easily and said, guys need to suck it up. This is operationally, this is the impacts. Like, you're doing things tactically. This is operational. This is the strategic mindset of, you know, the Department of Defense or Department of War, what we're calling it now. Like, this is what it is. But what I did was I came here and built a perspective of what are we doing tactically?
Yeah.
And then how does that feed back into the machine? And now I slowly start walking you guys to that whole operational view, and what the strategic outcome could be. Because strategic outcomes are 15 years in the making.
Yeah.
You know? So are we going to see it? Probably not.
Yeah.
But can we shape it? Absolutely. And then try to build realistic goals for yourself and then for those you lead. I think that is a big thing. I think command chiefs do a terrible job at it.
Yeah.
They have these unrealistic goals, and I think a lot of them don't take their job serious enough. They become a hype man of a wing commander or a numbered Air Force commander or MATCHCOM commander,
Yeah.
and they're not correctly advising them on what the enlisted force struggles really are. And I think that goes back to relevancy, right? They're not relevant enough.
Yeah.
To what's actually going on the ground to be able to advise correctly. And then the last thing is to become a senior leader, like don't think that because one person did it one way to make rank, that's the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
There's a multitude of ways. I didn't take a conventional way at all. I went so many different directions, and a lot of it come to stubbornness on my part.
Yeah.
Because I can be very stubborn. I had one chief tell me, hey, you know, you're gonna go to the weapons school and be an instructor there. You're gonna put master on there. You're never gonna make senior.
You're like,
All right.
Yeah.
Went to weapons school, made senior my first time.
Nice.
Then they told me, oh, you're gonna go work at this organization and you're gonna work with these people. You're never gonna make chief. Okay, cool. Made chief first time. Like, it is their thought process on how you made senior and chief was
Yeah.
based on how they seen others do it before them and how they did it.
Yeah.
But the way I did was I stepped back and I seen how they made it. I seen how these guys made it, and I'm like, okay, Well, they did it different than them.
Yeah.
So there's obviously not one true path. So how can I make a new path?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to be that pioneer, that person who blazes the trail for a new way to do something.
For sure. No, yeah, I kind of respect that approach because it seems kind of ignorant for them to like tell you those things. And sometimes like when, you know, people are in that power and they tell you like, yeah, you're never making senior, you're never making chief, it's kind of, you know, demoralizing or
Yeah.
like, you know, your hope kind of fades, but you
Yeah.
kind of said, screw that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool.
It's that old Kentucky stubbornness. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, say less. All right, Chief, last thing I got for you. What is one leadership lesson that can't be taught in a classroom, only learns through experience? I feel like we might have talked about a few of those, but
Emotional intelligence.
yeah.
Hands down. You can talk blue until you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
You can have as many PowerPoints as you want. You can read as many books as you need. You're never going to understand emotional intelligence or be able to demonstrate emotional intelligence until you're put in positions where you have to actually use them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to know, like, I can't tell you how many emotional intelligence classes and courses I sat in, and I got absolutely nothing out of
Yeah.
it compared to actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the one thing that I score really low on, that I think I have a lot of
Yeah.
on tests, is empathy.
Okay. I think I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I've learned my empathy as a parent.
Yeah. Okay.
Because before being a parent, like, I don't feel sorry for anybody,
Mhm.
you know, type deal. Whereas a parent, you start to learn, I think you start to learn why some choices are made in certain situations, and you have an emotional connection with your child that allows you to develop that empathy.
Yeah.
To then you can now take that, you can translate it to your airmen, where you
Mhm.
start creating that emotional connection with your airmen to then try to develop your empathy.
Yeah.
And that empathy leads into that emotional intelligence, and understanding. So there's two things that I do that I think really builds on emotional intelligence, and has helped me over, since I've been at the weapons school. Because right before I went to weapons school, I fired off this real spicy email. Like, I was
Yeah.
fired up, right?
Yeah.
Tech Sergeant Staggs is going to let this person have it, right? Didn't go over so well. It was even though I was right, it was still
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
right? So then the way I handled it just didn't get me the results that I wanted, because I didn't handle it in a good way. So at the weapons school, I learned as an instructor, and then when I got to my next assignment, I learned it even more. And then when I started dealing with like a lot of general officers and a lot of staff work, like, I started learning it even more. To this day, this is what I do.
Mhm.
I get an email that fires me up, right? I immediately open a reply box, and I just emotional vomit on that email. Then I save the draft.
Yep. Come back to it the next day.
72 hours.
Yeah,
I
okay.
give it,
Yeah.
I give it time,
Mhm.
right? I give it 3 days. Then I open it back up and I read it. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, delete.
Delete.
Yeah, that's
change
crazy.
this.
Yeah.
And by the time, like, I have a full page email that I open back up 3 days later. By the time I send it off, it's like a half a page with the bottom line up front.
Yeah.
And I send that off, and I get better results with that than I would have with that page, because first of all, that page email, they're probably not even gonna read. They probably read the first line and say, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Right? But that gives me time to allow my initial reaction to come out
Mhm.
without actually coming off onto somebody.
For sure.
And then 2, to give me time to, 1, sort of decompress,
Yeah. Reflect. You know.
reflect,
Yeah.
think about it a little bit, and then go back to it and say, okay,
Mhm.
I reread their email, I read mine, my response, and then I start editing from there. Because I also, during that time, just try to put myself into their shoes of why they sent that email. where is this coming from this individual? Is this because this individual is who they are? A lot of times I don't even respond to them.
Yeah, yeah, like, yeah.
But is it maybe they're getting pressure from somebody else?
Yeah.
And maybe I can provide them information that now they can use
Yeah, to help
push
them
back,
out. Yeah.
right? So, I think that is the biggest thing, that you only learn through trial, error, and it's definitely a trial by fire, is that emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
So,
Awesome. Well, Chief, I really do appreciate it.
yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
bud.
thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You know,
Appreciate
you know
man.
where I'm at?
Yeah. I appreciate it. It's,
Yeah.